All right, here we go. Welcome back. Paradox of Sports, episode 6. I had to throw the snow background back on. It snowed here today. Jack is apparently in a substantially better situation than me. You guys will see his background in a minute. We just got done with Mother's Day. So, Jack, did you do anything special for Mom?
We did. Well, not exactly for Mom, but we did like a little picnic with my mom's favorite foods, and we sat at the river walk.
Then you absolutely did something for Mom. You got her favorite food. You didn't foods plural, so that's even better. You didn't make a mess out of the house. You went somewhere not in the house. You got Mom out of the house. You guys had a little picnic at the Riverwalk. I would say that is a pretty successful Mother's Day. So good job.
Yeah.
How stir crazy are you and Vaughn getting?
Yeah, we're getting crazy. I mean, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I've been a little bit not right.
Well, I would assume it's because you've been in the house for 52 days. That's not natural for a young man to be cooped up in the house because your weather down there, you've had some 80s already. So it's 70s and 80s. You're supposed to be out running around hunting bunnies and hitting baseballs. Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Gotcha. So you're getting out. You're trying not to be too crazy. Okay, the Broncos released the schedule. So we've known who they're going to play for a while, but now we know dates, times, and everything, who's playing each week. I just hit the wrong button. All right, so we got that here. Hold on one second. All right, get that out of me. We do have a guest tonight, an interview we did a couple nights ago. Before we do the Bronco stuff, before we get to the interview, how did you feel that interview went?
That interview went pretty well.
You want to tell everyone who we had?
We had Morgan Fox, a defensive end for the Rams in football.
Okay, and we got. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Fun fact: he actually had a safety against Jacoby Brissett.
Nice. Now, the interview we have tonight, All Elite Wrestling, Colt Cabana, he talks about a few things that we'll get to after we do the Bronco schedule that I'm curious if you even know what they are. So we'll get to that in a second. First thing we're going to do, though, we're going to talk some Broncos. They're going to open the season September 14th. That's the second. I hate the Monday Night Football doubleheader when we play the late game. Like, that sucks. So
yeah, I don't get to watch it.
Yeah, no, Joe, I don't get to watch it either. I got to go to bed too. So Tennessee comes to Denver. What do you got there? How do you see us doing?
I see us getting the win.
Okay, so you think we start off at home, Mile High, we get the win that night?
Yes.
1-0. Denver starts 1-0. You heard it here first. And we'll get more as the season gets closer. This is our first just Jack's way too early predictions. So, but there's nothing else really going on, so we're going to dissect the schedule. So we're 1-0. Week 2, we head to – it's not Three Rivers Stadium anymore, but it was when I was your age. We head to Three Rivers, and Denver faces Pittsburgh. Who do you got there?
I have Pittsburgh winning, surprisingly.
Not really, man. Pittsburgh's a hard place to play. And week 2, Roethlisberger should still be healthy, hypothetically. So, the first 2 or 3 weeks of the year is really all you're going to get of the Steelers completely healthy. So, your prediction, Denver goes to Pittsburgh, gets beat. So now we are 1-1, and we head back to Denver, and here comes Tom Brady and his Pirate buddies, and we have the Buccaneers in Denver. How do you see this one going?
It's going to be a close one, but I've got the Buccaneers being the Broncos.
You do think the Bucs will get them? What gives you that feeling?
Like, the Broncos, because they lost Chris Harris, although they picked up AJ Bouye, they still need help on the pass defense. And Tom Brady's going to be hammering them with Gronk, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin, as well as a little bit of O.J. Howard in there. So the Buccaneers are going to have their pass game on fire and will eventually take the win. But it's going to be a close one, though.
So it'll be close late, and then when you get close late, it's going to come down to us and our young quarterback and Brady and his experience. This is going to be something you see as being a learning experience for Locke.
Yes.
Okay, I'll buy that, man. Now, you know what happens, though, in Denver. And see, this is what sucks, man. So we dropped the one to the Bucs. We're 1-2, and we head to New York to play the Jets. And I know you're going to pick Denver to beat the Jets.
Yes, I am.
See, I'm worried about that game, man. That is the kind of game that the Broncos of late, they will go and they will drop that game. But maybe the pressure of not wanting to go to 1-4 will be there for him. But I'm telling you, we'll mark the tape. Us 1-3 going to the Jets, that's a game that scares me because I can see Denver folding right there and mailing in the season. I hope they don't, but I could see it happening.
Yeah. But the Broncos beat the Jets, and so they're 2-2.
Hey, yeah, we're sticking with Jack's predictions. So Jack has Denver 2-2, back to Denver, back on a plane, back to New England the next week to face the Brady and Gronkless Patriots in Foxborough. 2-2. Who do you see winning that? It's 11 o'clock game too. That's an early one. So who do you got there?
Broncos 3-2. Broncos take down the Patriots.
So are you? Where do you see New England going next year?
I bet they'll have like a meh season because they lost Tom Brady.
So you're more on Tom Brady. You're more Brady than you are Belichick. Like you think Brady is what kind of has driven that train.
Yeah. There were goods and bads with both of them.
But Denver okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Like Brady, Deflategate, Belichick leading the Deflategate.
Belichick taping other teams' practices, stuff like that. So you have Denver 3-2, headed home October 18th to face Miami. So Denver at home, 3-2 against Miami. How do you see that one?
Broncos 4-2. Although they picked up Tua Tagovailoa, Austin Jackson, and some others in the first round. You
just pronounced that substantially better than Commissioner Goodell did. So good job.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, I don't know. Go back and watch it if you can find it. That night they drafted him. Honest to God, that might have been the first time Roger Goodell has ever tried to say that young man's last name.
Tagovailoa.
It was rough. So you've got us at 4-2.
Yes.
Which is, I'm not going to say we'll get into my pick some other time. But you have us at 4-2. This is 2 weeks that we get to be home. So now this is a big one when you have the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs roll in October 25th. It might be 70 degrees. It might be 8 degrees. You never know. But the Chiefs come to Denver. How do you think that one goes?
I believe that the Broncos will do well, but late in the game they'll crack under pressure and lose to the Chiefs.
Got you. So another one that's tight late. We blow it. So when you say tight late, are you thinking like 21-17 or are you thinking like 48-45?
I'm thinking like the 21-17.
Oh, wow. So our defense shows up then.
Yeah, in that game. Because
Okay.
although they have like one of the best offenses ever, I bet the Broncos will do well. Because Von Miller, he'll be. And plus, it's 2:25, like the time they played best.
Gotcha. You like that afternoon 2:25.
Yeah.
Parachuters show up. The sun's starting to set. It's not miserable hot, but it's not cold. So, yeah.
Perfect.
The sun's about coming off your guys' seats right there. Where your season tickets are, you're in a little bit of the sun, but then it goes behind those west stands, and it's about perfect for you guys.
Yeah.
Hey, you can't beat that. So what do we got us there? So now we are 4-3. Is that where you see us there? So we dropped one to the Chiefs late. We're 4-3. And then we have to go on the road to Atlanta. 4-3 on the road in Atlanta. How do you see that going?
This one is going to go into overtime, but the Broncos are going to beat the Falcons.
So you're calling your shot of overtime. Denver goes. So traditionally, this is the time of the year where the Falcons crack. So are you thinking we're going to go ahead and put them in the ditch there?
Yeah, we're going to be the first ones to show that they're going to crack.
Gotcha. So we set them into their tailspin, and 5-3 midway through the season. That's our first 8. So we are 5-3, and then it gets fun. Then
yes,
they
does.
They make their first trip to Las Vegas to play the Raiders in Darth Vader Stadium. We have to win that the first time we go play Las Vegas, we have to beat them, right?
Yes.
Okay.
They're going to beat them.
Now,
it's going to be another one of the close matches. No overtime, but it's going to be close.
So you're talking 3 points. Field goal late wins it.
3-7.
3-7. 7 single score, 1 score game.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I see this. I will step out on a limb here with you a little bit. I think this will be the first big Drew Lock come from behind win. It'll be in Vegas, but it might as well be a home game. Frontier Airlines, get on there with the Bear or the Platypus or the Sea Otter. $70 round trip. Go to Vegas, watch the game. I think Drew Lock. I think we pull that one out. So 5-3. Now we are 6-3. We come home to face the Chargers.
Okay. It's another one of those times, and I'm excited to see this Drew Lock Justin Herbert matchup. But I think the Broncos will barely have the upper edge. Barely. I'm not saying overtime. It's gonna be 3 points.
You're high on Herbert, though, right? Like, you think he's going to do all right in the NFL?
Yes. I bet he'll be in the final. I bet he'll be a nominee for Rookie of the Year easily.
Okay, so you're expecting big things. So where are we at now? Is that the 9th game, 10th game? Are we 6-3 now?
We're 7-3.
So we're 7-3. So 7-3.
Yeah.
You think we're gonna start 7-3?
Yes, because most of these games you see here are at the times that the Broncos like 225.
So you're big on the numbers. You're a logistics guy. Moneyball. Look at the analytics. I'm not going to argue with you. So okay. So you have a 7. Do you realize how much momentum the Broncos are going to have at 7-3? And I mean, everybody's excited. 7-3. Then you have New Orleans roll into town. Again, right in you're at your 2 o'clock wheelhouse. 2:05, Saints at Broncos. Maybe Drew Brees. Maybe he's hurt. He's old, so you don't know who we'll have then. How do you see this one going?
Although it's a good time, I see them going 7-4 as the Saints are able to knock off the Bronx.
Yeah, I
Because
figure they're ready for a loss at that point.
Yeah, they are. Like, they have, like, a 3-game winning streak. So I think they're ready for the loss. And plus, they already have Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. So I'm expecting big things on the rushing and receiving game. It's not going to be so much with the passing as Michael Thomas. He's going to do great receiving. Probably a 100-yard gain here. But still, I have the Saints beating the Broncos.
So we're 7-4.
Uh-huh.
We're heading on the road now, 2 road games. The first one in Kansas City, where well, you tell me what you think. We go on the road, Kansas City, 6:20. Hold on. What? So that's the 6th. So the 29th. So the 6th. 6:20. Is that a Monday night game or a Sunday night?
I think it's a Sunday night game.
Okay, so Sunday night. Oh, you got to listen to Collinsworth. That's terrible. So how do you see that going?
Chiefs are great in prime time, so I see the Broncos going 2-game losing streak.
So we're 7-5.
Yes.
Okay, so then we're 7-5. We come home, we lick our wounds, but then that's going to make this road trip we take to Charlotte to play the Panthers. That's going to be a big ball game. If you're 7-5, you need that win. So do they go to Carolina and get it?
Yeah, they do. 8-5. Although it's not like the best time for the Broncos to win a game, they're up against the Panthers, And according to some stats that I know of, the Broncos are in the top 10 in the decade in winning percentage when CBS is the main channel.
Gotcha. So when CBS is carrying us, we win games.
Yeah.
So you have us then, we're 8-5.
Mm-hmm.
We come home, and if there is a game that I am going to go to next season, if we're allowed to be in the stands, I am going to come down to this Bills-Broncos game. So if there's a game you and I go to, we're going to go to this Bills-Broncos game.
Yep.
8-5. I mean, hell, Buffalo's liable to be like, what is 8 plus 5? 13? Buffalo's liable to be 10-3 coming in. So what do you think, man? Buffalo comes to town. We're 8-5. Do we get that win?
I don't think so. We're gonna go 8-6 because we don't know who's gonna be doing the game. So,
Bills. Well, that's true but Bills are an AFC team. Which, no, you're right. Late in the year, sometimes they switch AFC teams and put them on Fox, huh?
Yeah. But the Bills are, because of their, cold weather, they're more into, the morning games, and it's more likely going to be a morning game, so the Bills are going to beat them.
And when you get that late in the year, if Denver's 8-5 and there's a playoff run, and Buffalo's 10-3, I see somebody flexing that game into prime time.
Yes. So 8-6.
So we're 8-6. We have 2 weeks left. It's 2 days after Christmas. We go on the road to San Diego. Or no, hell, that's not right. To Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
Yeah, to Los Angeles. We're 8-6. We get the win in Los Angeles, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so
for once, I actually feel bad about an AFC West player. This time it's Justin Herbert because the Broncos' pass defense, it isn't doing so well. Although they have AJ Bouye, Von Miller, all those people, but the Broncos still managed to get the win on the road. And plus, the AFC West is the main matchup for an afternoon game.
Yeah, that's right in the wheelhouse for those afternoon games. So you have us 9-6. Coming home to play the Raiders.
A giant game, though.
Giant game like you think the Broncos go to LA and destroy the Chargers?
No, but it's gonna score a lot of points.
Oh, high scoring. So you're taking the over. We don't know the line yet, but you're taking the over.
Yeah. So it's probably gonna be two teams in the 30s. Maybe one in the 30, one in the 20. Broncos in the 30, Chargers in the 20. So.
Okay. 9-6.
My prediction for this game, though, is going to be 37-31. It is way too early for that prediction, but I'm feeling a high-scoring game, so 37-31. Broncos beating the Chargers.
So you're calling the December 27th, 2020 game between the Broncos and the Chargers 37-31 Denver.
Yes.
Okay, we'll write that down. So we're 9-6. We're coming home. Last game of the year. If we're 9-6, we're not resting anybody because it's probably going to come down to needing that game to make the playoffs. 9-6, hosting the Raiders. How do we do?
I feel so bad for our proud Broncos, but the Raiders are going to pull it off.
You think they'll upset us there that day? So that makes us 9-7.
AFC West CBS game. So 9-7. Yep, it's another AFC West CBS game, and I think that the Raiders are actually better than us with this decade in CBS channeled games.
Okay.
Yeah, they're actually better.
We will not fact check that. I'm going to take your word for it. So there it is, our quick breakdown. Jack says 9-7. We will return to this later, and we will see how we do. But now we should shift gears as the education of Kevin continues with All Elite Wrestling and our interview with Colt Cabana. He was very gracious. I have watched and am following the wrestling, but now, Jack, come Sunday, I have a request of you. Sunday, NASCAR gets back. They will be the other live sport besides the UFC. Wrestling has never left. So UFC came back last weekend. NASCAR is coming back Sunday. They run at Darlington. So am I going to be able to convince you to sit down and watch a race?
I'll probably watch it.
Okay, you don't have to promise. No promises. I'm not going to hold you to it.
If I have time. If I have time.
Gotcha. So we can help teach each other. So with that being said, I think it's time we welcome on Colt Cabana and do our interview.
Yes.
All right, here we go.
Introducing AEW wrestler and commentator who has spent 18 years in major wrestling, Colt Cabana, along with other names, but mainly Colt Cabana.
We welcome a very special guest. Those of you that follow the pod know that Jack is doing his best to get Uncle Kevin involved in pro wrestling. So we are happy to have a man he's fought all over the world. Colt Cabana joins us. Thanks for taking the time tonight, man.
Yeah, sure. You know, I got an invitation from Jack, and I couldn't turn it down.
Well, as we do here, to get the interview started, we'll go ahead and we defer to Jack with the first question.
Oh, wait. Before we ask any questions, I have to wish you a happy late birthday.
Well, thank you very much. I'm 11 years old.
I'm 10.
I know, I'm way older than you.
Yeah.
So.
All right, Jack, what do you got?
Okay. How did you start your wrestling career? Like, how did you know that you wanted to wrestle?
Well, which one is it, buddy? How'd I know?
Basically the second one.
How'd I know I wanted to be a wrestler?
Yeah. Like, what got you into wrestling?
Well, I was obsessed with wrestling since I was a kid, since I was your age, before I was your age, and I had different times in my life. So, I mean, when I was really young, I just loved watching it. I loved collecting the action figures and the video games. And then as I started getting into junior high and into high school, I realized that I was an athlete. I was a football player. And then I realized that, like, oh, maybe I could actually be one of these professional wrestlers. And so I would say by the time I was 14, 15, 16, I kind of came to the realization that, oh, maybe I can actually do this. I can actually do this. I mean, I never thought I would be in like WWE or on like major television, but I just wanted to do it because I thought it was cool. So I never had any giant aspirations of being like Hulk Hogan. I didn't look like Hulk Hogan, but I just wanted to be a part of it. So,
what do you see as the same when you talk about the aspirations of a young boy? I mean, this is something Jack is knowledgeable. So over, your career, looking back from when you were a young boy to the young boys now, what is the same there as the draw for them?
Well, I mean, for now, for kids or young men, it's so much easier to gain access and information. So when I was a child, it was all we had was the wrestling magazines. Essentially, that was it. Sometimes even in the newspapers, they would put something about wrestling, but the information was very it wasn't there, And so now it's so cool that obviously with the internet, it's all available. And so it's so easy to become informed and to study and to kind of just watch and be it's easier to get more obsessed than it was before. And so, so I don't know if like, that maybe that idea of wanting the information is the same, but it's way easier now.
Okay, next question. What position did you play at Western Michigan in college?
Well, Jack, I was brought in as it was called a preferred walk-on. Brought in as a defensive end, and everybody was way bigger than me, and so they quickly moved me to a linebacker position, which I never played in my life. But I was a redshirt freshman, so I never really even played anyways my freshman year. So, but in high school, I was a very successful defensive lineman.
Cool. What was it like in your debut as a wrestler at Ring of Honor?
Well, yeah, by the time I got to Ring of Honor, I had been wrestling about 3 years or maybe even 4 years at that point. So I was wrestling almost all over the Midwest and a little bit of the Deep South and a little bit on the East Coast. So when we got to Ring of Honor, it was cool because at that time, that's where the top independent wrestlers were wrestling. Gabe Sapolsky kind of collected the very best wrestlers that he had access to, and he brought them into one place, which nobody was really doing at that point. There was a company called APW who had done that. They had done a tournament called the King of the Indies, and also ECWA was doing a tournament called the Super 8. And those were kind of like a place where once a year, the best independent unsigned wrestlers would come and wrestle, but no one was doing it on a constant basis. So to be invited into Ring of Honor and to start there, start my journey with Ring of Honor at that point, I knew it was something that was going to be the start of something really good. And it was. And, I had a bunch of great years. And then I got signed by WWE and then went back to Ring of Honor. So it was great being around the top talent. And I think in any sport, including professional wrestling, or anything, to be honest, not even sport, just in life, you want to be around the best. And those people, get you to be better, and everyone is at their best. And so you're always producing at the highest level. Where
does that first performance rank where you talked about the collegiate football, the high school football, the stuff you did, like the 30 minutes, that hour before you start? What's that like that first time for wrestling? Like, do you remember everything that went into that night?
Well, you mean for Ring of Honor or for wrestling?
Yeah, Ring of Honor, getting ready that night.
Well, I started wrestling in 1999, and Ring of Honor, I think it was 2002 where I started with them. So, it's the same. It's always been the same. As I'm a very visual thinker. I kind of visually imagine myself doing everything. And I remember doing that in football. That was years ago, but I would visually watch myself in my own head going through the plays and going through different scenarios. And I do that for the same with wrestling. I visualize myself in the ring. I visualize myself doing different high spots and different things. And I don't think it changed whether it was my first match in Ring of Honor, my first match in WWE, my first match in AEW. Those are kind of my steps.
Okay. So was the tournaments you were in? What were there? Was it like a scouting thing? You know how they scout high school players into college? Were you scouted into Ring of Honor?
Yeah, it's a good question. Back then it was called tape trading. You would take VHS tapes and you would send them to different promoters and different people. And at that time, myself along with some of the other Midwest wrestlers had been making quite a buzz for ourselves on the scene, not only in a promotion called IWA Mid-South, but a couple other promotions in the Midwest. And we were doing a lot of wrestling, and we were kind of making a little name for ourselves. So other people had kind of been spreading our name around. It's a lot easier now. It's kind of crazy how hard that would be, to do when the internet wasn't as prevalent. But it got to the point that a tape of my match and got into the hands of the Ring of Honor promoter, and he watched it, and he invited me and some other guys to come into the promotion, and that's how it started. So there was no actual scouts at the shows, but tape trading at that time was a really big deal.
Okay. So, when you were in Ring of Honor, you had a rivalry with a wrestler named Homicide.
Mm-hmm.
And many things happened to you during that time span. You were strangled by a clothes hanger. You were bleeding from chair shots, and you had Drano poured down your mouth.
Yeah.
Which I meant to ask you, do you still have the taste of that Drano?
No, luckily it's out of me, and I think President Trump would say that would have cured me of COVID if I still had that taste in my mouth, but I do not.
Okay. So on Wrestling Society X, why was your Matt Classic persona? You were billed as winning the world title in 1952.
Okay.
Why'd that happen?
Well, first of all, you have your information incorrect. That was not my persona. Okay. Nobody knows who Matt Classic is. He's a masked man. He's been around a long time. He is my mentor. I am his protege, and he is actually in the basement right now doing squats as we speak. But in saying that, yes, Matt Classic is a legend. He's been around. He trained Stu Hart. Rumor has it is him and Lou Thez had some unbelievable battles. Him and Frank Gotch, even Carl Gotch, So yeah, if that's what they say, I believe it, because Matt Classic has won a lot of titles in a lot of different eras. He's a true legend.
Okay, he must be. So in sometime in your wrestling career. So you were in the King of Trios tournament as part of a team with two others that I can't remember. You in the first round, you lost to a team called FIST, who eventually won the tournament.
Thanks for rubbing it in.
I'm sorry. Does that FIST, were they in any way like Dark Order? Because that seems like a team that would be like a Dark Order type thing.
First of all, I'll ask you, do you like Chikara?
Do I like who?
Chikara.
I've heard of it, but I don't know but I haven't heard too much about it. So.
Okay, I think that would be right up your alley. I recommend Chikara. Chikara is very family friendly, very fun wrestling, and that's where the King of Trios was. And that is where I lost to Fist. And at that time, Fist, they weren't necessarily like the Dark Order, but they were a very dominant team in Chikara, which included Chuck Taylor, who's now in AEW with myself. So they were good. I mean, they weren't as dark as Dark Order, but they were good at the time, obviously, because they won the whole thing.
Yeah. One of the top trio teams in like the little area that you were in during that time span.
That's right.
Yep. All right. So like when you were wrestling in New Japan Pro Wrestling, is there like a difference between American wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling? Is there like different types?
There is difference, and there is different ways like the Okada would wrestle than a John Cena would wrestle. But luckily for me, pardon me. Sorry, I'm allergic to New Japan questions.
Bless you.
Thank you. Hold on. Woo!
Bless you.
Thank you. Is it coming threes? What do you think?
I think you're good at two. Good at two.
Yeah.
Luckily for me, my style is kind of, it's taken me all over the world. So I wrestled my style in America, obviously, but I've also wrestled my style in England and China and India and Australia. So when I got to Japan, I didn't plan on kind of changing anything up. I wanted to keep it the same. And luckily, my friend Toru Yano has a very similar style to me. And so we matched up very well. So there is a big difference a lot of times in the way the wrestling is presented. But luckily for me, I think that my wrestling style is kind of universal. So I didn't do much changing up my style necessarily.
Is there a difference in the way it's consumed? I saw just one of the places that you never really hear a big wrestling market was I saw you had been in Scotland. So when you go, is it consumed different? Are the fans different? Like how is the crowd different as you go around the globe?
Well, Scotland in particular is an 18-plus show based around a lot of adult themes, and they are just there to get drunk and rowdy, and they're just, they're in it. They're just in it. Whereas American independents now, it seems like they're a little more, like the "This is awesome" chants, and they kind of see it for the show that it is almost. And then whereas Japan, it's really they're kind of focused on what's happening. And so it's not necessarily – the Japanese audience aren't necessarily trying to make themselves part of the match. They're just witnessing the match. And they'll get really caught up in it, which is cool because sometimes the American fans seem to just want to, chant and almost support the match itself, whereas the Japanese fans really want to support the individual wrestlers, not necessarily the match as a whole.
Gotcha. And okay, last thing about the international stuff. I'm a big foodie. So when you're traveling, when you're going, where's your favorite place? Like outside of the States, where's your favorite place to dine?
Well, I'm not a big foodie. I mean, I obviously like food, but I just eat what I like to eat. It's usually just chicken breast and some meat and some potatoes. So, but I try to enjoy the cuisine when I'm around. When I did shows in India, we were at a really nice hotel, and they fed us really well, and the Indian food was delicious. So that was something I'll always remember.
Okay. Next question.
Yes,
What's the most amount of fans that you've wrestled in front of?
The most amount of fans that I've wrestled in front of? Well, that's a good question. I did some WWE shows, but I also, All In had about 11,000 people. But I think I wrestled at the Allstate Arena for WWE. I think they hold about 15,000 people, and I've done some bigger shows in Japan too. I wrestled Joey Ryan for DDT in front of about 8,000 people. So some of those.
Okay.
Is that a lot?
I am not not exactly sure. That's like around like a Raw event or SmackDown.
Have you ever wrestled in front of 15,000 people?
No.
Okay.
But being at wrestling events, I pretty much know where a fan, which is actually around like 11,000.
All right, cool. Yeah.
All right, what is the least amount of fans I should wrestle in front of?
Oh, well, that would be 0 for these AEW shows, right?
What is that like from the standpoint of for an athlete where you're relying on the crowd, during the match, and it goes back to everything you've done your whole life, where they talk about momentum and feeding off the energy and the adrenaline. How much different is it when that's not there?
Well, with AEW, some of the wrestlers, they're practicing social distancing, but they're around the ring, and so they're helping us feed that kind of energy, and it helps us get through. But I've been wrestling for 21 years now, and I've done a lot of shows in front of a little amount of people, so it's nothing that's too crazy to me. Not like I've only wrestled in front of thousands of people. There's definitely been shows where there was 6 people or 11 people or 15 people, and so it's almost the same thing. So it's nothing new to me. I'm okay with it.
Okay. So, maybe me or my brother, maybe in the future becoming a wrestler and maybe making it to WWE. What is it like in WWE when you were known as Scotty Goldman?
Well, it was something I had worked at it a long time, and being in WWE wasn't necessarily my goal when I started wrestling. I just wanted to be a full-time wrestler, and I wanted that to be my job. And at that point, when they signed me, I had achieved that, and I was achieving that. But in saying that, I grew up watching WWF, and I loved it, and along with everything else. But that was probably the biggest one when I was a kid, and that has a lot of memories that I cherish. So to be able to say that I was, signed and used by the same company that I grew up watching and obsessing over, to me was held a special place in my heart. So, the first time that they called me up and said, Colt, you're going to be wrestling Brian Kendrick on SmackDown. You'll be debuting. It was very special for me, and it meant a lot.
Yep. Okay. How does changing your wrestling name affect your persona?
Well, I was and am very attached to Colt Cabana. I've been Colt Cabana for a long time, so I am that character. I know that character very well. I know everything about Colt Cabana inside and out. So even just a little thing of changing someone's name kind of takes you out of it for a little bit, because you're not as attached to the different name. And so with the WWE, not only was it a name change, but there wasn't really much pushed behind it. It was just a wrestler going out there. So, you had to deal with it, but those are things you try to overcome.
Okay. So now you're in AEW, and not too long ago, in the first round of the TNT Championship Tournament, you faced a guy named Lance Archer. How did that go?
Well, did you see it?
AEW, but I'm not sure if I saw that match. I may have been distracted by.
Okay, well then I won.
Okay, but I know that Cody is facing Lance Archer in the TNT Championship final.
Oh, okay, you got me.
Yeah.
Lance Archer's a big boy, and sadly I wasn't able to beat him that night, but hopefully another night. But he's very big, very strong. I've wrestled with him in Japan many times, and he's going to be a big force in the AEW locker room for sure.
He will. He could probably win the TNT Championship. We just have to wait until double or nothing.
Yeah, he's close.
Yeah. So overall in wrestling, what was your biggest win?
Well, I've had a lot of big wins. I would say maybe winning the NWA World Heavyweight Championship was a big one for me. The first time I did it was a big build-up with Adam Pearce in California, and eventually I was able to overcome and and beat him right in Hollywood. And I've had some other really nice wins too that I'm very proud of, including I was a 2-time Ring of Honor Tag Team Champion. I was an NWA National Champion. I was the Rev Pro British Heavyweight Champion, which not a lot of Americans can say they were. So I guess winning championships are usually some of the biggest wins that you have.
You talked about the Hollywood being there. When you look back on the venues that you have been in, whether it was in the States or worldwide, I can't imagine the amount of venues you have been in and wrestled in. Is there one venue in particularly that's a favorite?
Well, I think every wrestler will say Korakuen Hall in Tokyo, Japan. It's just legendary. So you think about wrestling. When you wrestle at Korakuen Hall in Japan, you know that you're in the same locker room that Kobashi were in. You're in the same locker room that Masawa, Inoki, Brody, Hansen. They all wrestled and thrived in Korakuen, and that's something I was able to do too. Many times, I've wrestled there many times, so that's always great. And some of the, a lot of the times it has to do with just the audience too. It's it's not just like the actual arena, but the audience that comes into the arena and makes the night special. So Turner's Hall in Cleveland, Ohio is always a fun one. The New Yorker. The Hammerstein Ballroom in New York, those were 2 great ones. The Manhattan Center in New York. The Frontier Fieldhouse in Chicago is a special place for me. So I've been in a lot of cool places. I've also been in a lot of dumps.
Okay. So, what made you start doing podcasts about wrestling? Because you were like one of the first to ever do wrestling podcasts.
Yeah. I liked podcasting. I like listening to podcasts. I was a big fan of talk radio as a child. And so when the medium of podcasting started coming around, there were 0 wrestlers in wrestling doing weekly podcasts. And so I kind of saw an opening in the market. And I just kind of went for it, And so, the first couple were a little rocky. The audio wasn't the best, but eventually I kind of got in my groove. And then next thing you know, I got basically a 5-year head start on everybody else. It was and has been and is very successful part of me and my career. And it's really helped launch a lot of things that I've done and I'm doing.
You want to talk a little bit about what you're doing now with the, I think it's a 10-part series where you're doing the stuff with some of the independents that you've had on there that are just talking kind of about what they're going through?
Yeah, it's been a really hard time. And I'm doing a thing called the Quarantine Series where I've invited full-time independent wrestlers who have no other job but are not contracted to anybody, so have no guaranteed income coming in. And that's really hard because that was a position I was in for many, many years. I was an independent wrestler with no contract because I didn't want to sign a contract because I didn't want anyone to kind of be beholden to me, or I didn't want to be beholden to anybody else. So luckily this year, just a couple months ago, I signed with AEW, a 3-year deal, and I'm lucky that I collect a weekly paycheck. But a lot of these wrestlers don't, and there's no shows for them to wrestle on, or there's no way to make money really. So it's kind of my way of letting the world know about the situation. So my way of documenting the situation. For the future, because I think it'll be important. And also it's a way to get people to learn how they can support these wrestlers and these artists in this kind of crazy time where, they're independent contracts and performers, and there's no way to perform. So.
All right. So who is your favorite wrestler besides you?
Oh, man. My favorite wrestler, I'd say Grado. Grado's one of my favorite wrestlers. He's a tag team partner of mine from Scotland. You ever heard of him?
Actually, I have not.
Well, I recommend you look him up.
Okay. All right. Who is your least favorite?
I'd say my least favorite wrestler is probably Grado. You know who he is?
You're going to have to look him up.
He's a wrestler from Scotland. I recommend you look him up.
Okay.
You good? You got anything else, Jack?
I don't.
Awesome. That was a good set of questions. Colt, thank you. I want to say that the thing you're doing for the independent stuff is that's cool, man. Like that's watching that and seeing that. There's not a lot of guys. You're the only guy doing that. So what you're doing and pushing them is awesome. We hope all this gets cleared up and everyone gets back to doing what they're doing. I've enjoyed learning about professional wrestling. Up until 3 months ago, I had never laid my eyes on it. So Jack's pushed me in that direction, man. And I'll be honest, I'm loving it.
Cool. We appreciate it, Jack. We need more people like you.
Yeah.
You're the trendsetters.
Sweet. Thanks, man. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Cool. Stay safe. Stay healthy.
And if you want anything else to do in the quarantine, make sure to subscribe and like to the page.
You got it.
Sweet. Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.